welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham area Municipal Access, our cable television stations on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T, Channel 99. We're on the radio, of course, on 89.3 Lakes FM in West Bloomfield and the greater West Bloomfield area, and on Birmingham and on 88.1 WBFH The Biff in the Birmingham Bloomfield area as well. Online, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or view us in the small player at the top right of our homepage, as well as on Facebook, facebook.com/civiccentertv15 and facebook.com/lakesfm. And as always, joining me here in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
Tyler.
Oh,
We made it to Thursday.
Yeah, it's
It
good.
feels like Thursday of next week.
It does. Yeah,
Is that possible?
It is. It is possible. That's an accurate representation of how this Thursday feels. It feels like it's been 2 weeks in 1 week, maybe even more.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Yes.
I will say the weather is nice. I mean, that's good.
That's about it.
There is so much. Sorry, I didn't have my coffee.
Oh, no.
I woke up late today, so I set Alexa as my alarm, and I must have told Alexa to shut up.
Oh.
And didn't wake up on time. And usually, Trixie Dixie the Wonder Dog is like, coming up, kissing you, licking you, going, and then she's got these big paws and starts pawing you.
Sure.
She even slept in today.
Interesting. Oh.
I'm like, I wonder if my sleep habits are changing.
Maybe they are, or maybe it's just because we've just been bombarded this week with everything possible, and it's just making us exhausted. Maybe that's the thing.
Well, that's you guys. So you know, I'm only part-time. I leave here at noon.
Yeah, lucky you.
And then they deal with all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's never an easy day.
No. It absolutely isn't. And yesterday was wild because, of course, we lost power on Wednesday or on Tuesday with the rainstorm and the high winds and all that. And this was one of the areas right around our building that was affected with an outage. And DTE up until about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night was reporting that we weren't going to be back until about 11:30. We came back in the middle of an environmental commission meeting last night, which we were able to still do because we were on generator power. Our generator was fixed, and of course it worked. So we were on all day yesterday, but on only essential systems in here. And so some of our editing software and all that we use, and for other reasons too, we weren't really able to access them during the day, which helps us, of course, prepare graphics and other things that don't take a long time for this show, but do take time. And so this morning, because of all that being off all day and through the night yesterday, was a mad scramble to get everything we needed ready. Of course, it was fine. We had a couple minutes to spare, but still, running around like mad people all morning long, as always.
It is what it is. And I will say, it teaches you, this is kind of how like a newsroom works. It could be time, and then deadline, scramble. Sure. It's kind of what it is. Like 30 seconds can mean a world of difference.
Oh, yeah, and it absolutely does, yeah.
Talking about the power being out, because I have seen like some really big trees that are down and coming in. So the other day we were walking the dog and on the West Bloomfield Trail, and we noticed there was this helicopter that was circling the area, like right over Kego and Pine Lake Country Club and up and down, but it was so low. So I was like, my first initial thought is they must be helping with a search and rescue over in Pine Lake or over one of the lakes, but that wasn't the case. Come to find out, it was DTE Energy following the storm, flying over the area to try to figure out what area they needed to go into address with the trees being down on lines and this, that, and the other. So I know that that's been a big topic on all the neighborhood chats and the Facebook groups, the Kego and the Sylvan and this, that, and the other. But it is a little strange, though, when you see a helicopter over your house flying so low. You're like, what are they doing?
Yeah, and I mean, that just with the situation we had with this week's storm, with the winds being so high, I mean, even though it didn't really go on for more than maybe 15 or 20 minutes, that's a lot of time to be able to shift things around and for things to be swinging back and forth and snap and go into the roads and other areas and fall onto those lines. And they need to be able to prioritize the more dangerous or immediate needs of those situations to remove large branches that are hanging on the lines, potentially doing damage to those lines, versus others that maybe just have had a few branches fall on them and short them out, which are, I would presume, easier fixes than removing a branch from being all the way on a line, pushing it down and making it inoperable.
Well, the lines or the ground has been so saturated with all the rain. Yes. Mother Nature, we get it.
Exactly.
The mosquitoes are insane, so I'm trying to hunt down a company that can come in and spray the backyard, because going out before with my little can and spraying just is not doing the job. Yeah. And, you know, you design this backyard for you to enjoy, and you can't even enjoy it because the mosquitoes are having a feast. They're relentless.
Yeah, they are, and you know, maybe they're still hungry from last summer where they weren't, you know, able to get out as much because it wasn't so freaking rainy. But you know, who knows? They are out there and they're biting and they're all around you. It's like you walk outside and you're just swarmed immediately. And it's like, listen, I've been out here for 2 minutes. The balminess of the day hasn't even gotten to me yet. There are much more tasty things out here than me.
Oh my goodness, it's been crazy this year with the mosquitoes. Yes. I will say so. I kind of blew off my husband last night.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
He had to work last night, and they had tree trimmers in the neighborhood. And so, you know, they were blocking driveways and this, that, and the other, trimming all the trees and this. So he was kind of late going and didn't have time to pack his dinner because I get on him about eating out so much. Mm-hmm. He's working nights all this week. So I said, oh, Trixie and I, because she's feeling better enough that she can go for car rides and stuff, Trixie and I are going to make dinner and bring it to you. Okay. Well, then I was like, it's really nice out on the water today. And then I went on to Luna Moon. We've had them on the show before with Misty. Yeah. And she does the stand-up paddleboard events over in Sylvan Lake. And she had like, she does either yoga, paddleboard yoga, or a paddleboard sunset cruise. And so I was like, that sounds relaxing. And it's such a nice night. And it could storm. I think we're going to get storms again, right? After midnight tonight. So I was like, I text my husband, I'm sorry, are you really hungry? Because I think I'm going to go out on the paddleboard. Can you order out again? But then he's like, whatever. But then I did come home and the dog was like, So I was like, oh, come on. So I took her to get a puppuccino.
That's nice.
And I will say, because all the Starbucks have been closed.
Sure.
So I had to take her through we have one of the hybrids, the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins there in Kegel.
Yeah.
And so the line for once was really short because I don't know when Bosco's is going to reopen and what's going on with them. But we love their family, so we hope that they reopen in the neighborhood. But so everyone goes to Dunkin' Donuts, so the lines are always long. But last night it was short, so I took Trixie through, and they even put like the little donut in her puppuccino. So she was like in doggy heaven last night with her little puppuccino. It's so weird to go through a drive-through because, you know, I don't want anything. It was like 9 o'clock, so I was like, can I just get a puppuccino, please? You know?
Sure.
And it's sometimes like, it depends on who's there. Sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't. But, you know, then I felt bad because I didn't have cash, so I had all these coins. So I was digging through. I mean, there's probably like $3 or $4. Okay. In coins, but still, it's coins.
Right, it's coins. Yeah, they're annoying.
And speaking about coins, did you know the coin shortage is still going on?
No, I didn't. I thought we were past that a while ago, but I guess not.
We're not.
Oh.
So coin shortage again presents some inconveniences for the businesses. So along with the many product shortages amidst the virus over the past year and a half is the coin shortage, which has once again crept back up for many businesses and banks. So the original cause of the 2020 coin shortage was production at the U.S. state's mint slowing down because of the pandemic, with last year's mintage down to just over $4 billion as of May 2020, as opposed to $5.7 billion the previous year. So the other problem was that early in the pandemic, very few coins were circulating in the economy because we were all staying at home. Fewer people were going out and spending money. And once the economy began to reopen, many businesses exhausted their coin inventories. So in May of this year, the U.S. Federal Reserve sorry.
Oh, boy.
It's the morning frogs.
Yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
we all get them.
Yeah, ribbit.
I know, I really need to talk more before I get here. But, you know, my husband and my dog, they're still snoozing in the bed.
You just listen to some other talk radio and argue with the people that are speaking.
That could be a possibility. So the U.S. Federal Reserve acknowledged businesses and banks in various parts of the country were having a hard time getting their hands on enough quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies. So there is an adequate overall amount of coins in the economy, according to a statement from the U.S. Federal Reserve, but businesses and bank closures associated with the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the normal circulation patterns. So now the Federal Reserve continues to work with the U.S. Mint and others in the industry to keep coins circulating. Since mid-June of 2020, the U.S. Mint has been operating at full production capacity. In 2020, the Mint produced about 14.8 billion coins. That's a 24% increase. So anyone that's hoarding coins at home, go take them to one of those, I think, what is it? I want to say it's not OnStar. It's
like
the
Coinstar, Coinbase, or
yeah, something. They have them like typically in Kroger's, and then they charge you a small fee for you to throw them all in, unless you want to actually take the time to count them all out and then
roll them up and take them to a bank. No.
Who's doing that?
No,
I mean, I know that the dollar store still sells like, you know, the containers that you can do that. No. Pay a small fee, take them, dump them in, and get the coins back in the circulation. But I will say, do you have a penny jar or a coin jar? We do.
Yeah, I got a jar that I keep in my home, and I will keep some in my car and take them out every few days. You know.
I know, because I hate them at the bottom of my wallet.
Yeah, no, I don't put them in there. It just makes it all clunky and even heavier, and it's annoying. Like I said earlier, coins are annoying. But I was a little surprised, because some places, like if you go to a Tigers game, just so you know, they are you can't pay in cash. It's all paperless. Yeah. And I think about that, like, what about the older people? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that don't use you know, the banking system. Not everyone has a smartphone to just go boom, there's my money. Yeah. You know, I don't know, crazy world we live in now that you can't even pay in actual cash in some places. So what I'm confused with this is should we be using coins more often to recirculate them, or are we going to see a situation like before, earlier on in the pandemic, where, for example, grocery stores were saying we're not accepting cash payments or any of that because we can't provide change, or we won't provide change so we can keep our coins intact. That's what I'm wondering with this. Is it going to be kind of a mixed bag of that, or how severe is that problem? Of course, I'm sure we'll hear more about it as time goes on if this becomes more of a problem, but it doesn't seem like it's been that big of a deal, at least not recently.
Yeah, I think because so many people now do pay, you know, with their card or something, or their phone, or this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, still, like, I'm not putting my card through for $3.26.
No.
Usually I'll have enough cash to be able to pay for that. But then I have had, just recently, I had a situation where, you know, they're like, oh, if you don't have the exact change, then they either round up or round down.
Okay.
That happens quite a bit still. So, but if you're hoarding your coins at home,
go ahead and use them.
Turn them in.
Sure.
Yeah. Plus, why do you want a big thing of coins sitting around?
Exactly.
Hey, this is so disappointing for so many people. The U.S. moves to extend the Canada border restrictions through August 21st. Canadian leaders were left stunned by the U.S. decision to expand its border closure to non-essential Canadians until at least August 21st, despite plans by Ottawa to open its borders to Americans 12 days earlier. Some U.S. lawmakers are unhappy with the announcement, with politicians from both sides of the aisle criticizing the move. Wednesday's announcement comes 2 days after Canada said it would allow vaccinated Americans to start crossing the border for non-essential travel starting August 9th. Now, the border discrepancy risk tensions between the economic allies, especially if extended by the Americans beyond the 21st. Cross-border trade and tourism are the lifeblood of the industrial heartland in both countries, making the border crossing between Detroit and Windsor one of the busiest in North America. So a Federal Register document published Wednesday from the Customs and Border Protection announced the extension of the U.S. current policy through the 21st. The policy only allows for ground travel deemed essential from people looking to enter the U.S. from Canada. It was signed by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and pointed to a specific threat to human life or national interests with COVID-19 spread between the two countries. How can these two countries not be on the same page?
Yeah, it's surprising to me, too, because of where Canada's at in their vaccination process, where the U.S. is in their vaccination process. Earlier on in the week, Canada had said that they planned to relax some of their border restrictions for travel into the U.S. And the fact that both of these countries are going to be requiring some form of proof of vaccination in order to enter. I mean, that's something that's been discussed on both sides before. So if you're requiring people to prove that they have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, but you're worried about the spread of COVID between the two countries, if you're only admitting people from one or the other who have been fully vaccinated, where's the problem there?
Well, you are still allowing people to fly in.
Sure.
From Canada. Right. But, I think about, too, and we understand there are so many families that are deeply impacted by this. For me, I'm just thinking tourism, because I want to go over to Canada to go through their wine country. And because for us, it really is closer to do that than to go up north.
Yeah. Because
it's so close. It's just right over the border. But how does that happen? Canada says I can come in, but can I not come back? I'm so confused.
Yeah, it's a very odd choice. The fact that Canada is so shocked by it also leads me to believe that the communication there has been lackluster, or that they just completely have been blindsided by this decision by the U.S. and that their discussions may have been leaning the other way up until this point. So kind of a surprising decision from the U.S. Of course, the Delta variant spread is of concern right now, but it's obviously a one-sided concern in terms of crossing the border between Canada and the U.S., and that concerns more now on the U.S. end, where previously it was more so on Canada's side.
Hey, politicians, get it together.
Yeah, good luck.
I will say, though, that it's surprising because there are Republicans and Democrats who are both saying to the Biden administration, what the heck?
Right, makes no sense.
What was your decision-making process of this? And no.
Right, you're only going to be allowing vaccinated people one way or the other, so where's the rationale there? It needs more clarification, because there's a lot of confusion here, not just in our government and in our population, but also on the other side with our Canadian neighbors.
So, Michigan House repeals the emergency powers law that the governor used to fight the pandemic. This really just kind of puts a bow on this entire issue, because 76-year-old Michigan law crafted in the wake of the Detroit race riots and used more recently to combat a generational health crisis, it's officially dead. The Republican-controlled state House on Wednesday voted 60-48, largely along party lines, in support of the initiative petition language that repeals the Emergency Powers Act of 1945. The vote came 1 week after the state Senate also approved the initiative, and we should know here there were some Democrats that voted for this as well. So Whitmer used the law to issue sweeping health and safety restrictions in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, moves that eventually garnered pushback from Republicans and other opponents. So Democrats blasted the initiative effort, though imposed repealing the law, arguing the power is needed and lawmakers should allow the petition to go to voters in the form of a ballot question. The House voted, though, to repeal to take effect immediately, but the Senate did not. So that means the law officially takes effect 90 days after lawmakers formally adjourn their current legislative session. Whitmer and her administration have used other laws to battle health emergencies, but this initiative process outlines a playbook for conservatives to take future action in a way that avoids a veto. Some people are saying, just let it go to the ballot, let the people decide. But we have to remember that the other laws are still in effect that allows the health department to make some of these measures and these restrictions, which we all know the director of the health department works for the governor. Right. So what's the big deal here? Come on.
Right. Not a whole lot in the current situation is changing from this. What this really impacts would be other emergency situations that are not necessarily of public health concern that could arise in the future. And on top of that, the article does note that the strategic play here and how the use of petitions in the initiative process could be something that's used to avoid a gubernatorial veto in the future for Republicans. They also have to keep in mind that by putting that in the playbook and putting that out there, that's also something that can be used by the Democratic arsenal should there be a change of power in the governor's office in 2022 and in the legislature and Senate should they flip. It can go both ways. So it's, again, another example of petty politics between the two sides.
As a reminder, you can always get the latest headlines. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus there. They are posted each and every morning. But again, we like to remind you, do a little bit of homework for yourself. And you can do that. Just go to that page, and then we put direct links to various resources for you to be able to read up on so many of these issues. Because while we like to think the pandemic is behind us, I don't think we are there just yet.
Nope.
With that, it's the Thursday edition of the Megacast. We have a great show for you here ahead on the Thursday show. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Jenna Hance. She's the owner of the Pinspiration Berkley shop. I love this. I absolutely love this, and I hope they're doing well, because anyone that is crazy about Pinterest, such as me, you understand why it's so great to have this company here so close to us. And then also coming up in the 10 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking with the CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. That's all here next in the 10 o'clock hour of the Megacast.
To Sophia and Gabriel, even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. And Tyler, one time when Pinterest first came out, people were kind of like, what's Pinterest? I don't understand. What's Pinterest? How do you pronounce it? What does it do? I was obsessed from day one.
Yeah, I know a few people that were quite obsessed from the onset of it, and still are today. Still use it very often to gather ideas for projects around the home or things that they like to do with their various hobbies. And it's an interesting place. You get a lot of really unique ideas there.
I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday about a recipe for killing weeds that she found on Pinterest. It's all about Pinterest. Everything is on Pinterest.
Sure.
And to make it a little bit easier, because sometimes you see these things on Pinterest and you want to do them and you mark them and you put them to a board, but then they just kind of sit there and la la land. But you can make your Pinterest dreams become a reality just by going to Pinspiration in Berkley. Jenna Hance with us here on the Megacast. Great to have you with us. How are you?
Hi, well, hello. I'm doing wonderful. We have such a fun time here at Pinspiration. It's always a great day here.
I will say, because Pinterest, there are so many things on Pinterest. How do you pick and choose? Is it pretty much just DIY crafting?
Oh, so Pinspiration is a DIY crafting studio. That is what we're here for. We have dozens of samples that are out in the studio for people to get inspired by. And then in addition to all of the really cute and creative samples that we have out, we also have all of the tools that you need, all of the embellishments that you need, all of the paints, glues, materials, as well as helpful tutorials, and a really great staff here to help make sure that nobody ends up with a Pinterest fail. We want everyone to come away with something that they're going to be really happy with here at the studio.
I've had so many of those, by the way, the Pinterest fails.
And then we have all the extra materials at home, and what are we going to do with the extra stuff? And sometimes, we just need what we need to be able to give that project a try. Yep.
What I love about this, Jenna, too, is because it's not only about having all the additional supplies, which the cost really starts to add up, but it's
really
the
does.
Storage of everything that you have left over.
It is. So luckily we have a very organized storeroom in the back of the studio here where I keep everything sort of kitted together. And when you decide on what type of a project you want to make, it's easy for me to bring out just what you need. And then anything that you want to use in the studio to help make it special, whether that's our glitter or the rhinestones or the jewels or the gems, whatever you might need, we've got it here in the studio for you to be able to make it something personal.
Glitter has been banned from my house.
Well, it is not being here. You can get all the glitter you want on the floor here, no problem.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Glitter is very dangerous.
I will say, I made tutus over the 4th of July for our volleyball team, and they were red, white, and blue. But of course, the red glitter tool looks so much cuter, and it was fluffier. Sure. So I had to add it.
But it gets everywhere, and we love it here. I love a nice sheen of glitter on the floor here at Pinspiration.
So with that, Jenna, before we kind of jump into how you guys are doing through the pandemic, how is this a franchise? Is this a new thing that's popping up across the country?
It is. There are about 23 stores that are open throughout the United States, and we are so fortunate to be the first one opening here in Michigan. So right here in Berkley, Southeast Oakland County, we have landed the first Pinspiration here in Michigan.
So how did you go about wanting to do this?
Gosh, what a great question. So my background has really nothing to do with arts and crafts other than that I've always been a DIY lover. I really have since the beginning. I studied human resources. I was a human resources manager for about 15 years.
No way.
And And I went back to graduate school at Western Michigan University, and I was taking a course on designing for meaningful work as a part of my organizational change leadership program that I'm doing. And in that, I had to write an essay about if you could do anything, what would you want to do? And I kept writing about owning a DIY crafting studio where it was very self-directed and there was just a little bit of everything for anyone to try. And within a couple of days of turning in that essay, there was a sponsored Facebook ad saying that they were looking for franchisees in our market. When I watched their ad, I just knew I had to throw my hat in the ring. I knew that, Berkley would be a perfect space for this. And with my business background and my husband's background in arts and photography, we knew that we would be able to just knock it out of the park here.
So how long have you been open?
That's a great question. We officially opened our doors for our soft opening over Memorial Day weekend. However, we purchased our franchise agreement back in October of 2019. So before things got a little crazy with the pandemic. So we came back from training in Arizona from the flagship store at the end of February. And within just a matter of weeks, everything really started to close down. So we had a long time where we had a lot of inventory just delivered to our home. I had a long time to make a lot of the samples for in the studio. It was great to have my kids involved in getting the samples kind of pulled together. And then construction took its sweet time as well. And then, we were able to open our doors finally Memorial Day weekend of this year to such a warm reception within the community. It has just been wonderful to see how people are just ready to come together and laugh and create and do something out of the house.
Jenna Hance with us here on the Megacast. She is the owner at the Pinspiration over in Berkley. And because, Jenna, you are in a great community. Berkley is a very tight-knit, great community. But anything, you put Pinterest connected with anything, people are going to go crazy.
Yeah, they want to try. They're willing to try. And what I love is seeing how creative kids can be here, people of all ages and abilities. I think our most frequent customers right now are grandparents bringing their grandkids and just coming and crafting and getting silly here together.
Wow. Huh. So how does it work? Do people need to make reservations? Is it kind of like, because we did see over the past few years, there's been a lot of those pop-ups of like the board and brush type stores. So is it kind of a similar format? How does this work?
Similar in some ways, very different in others. So at our studio, when you make a reservation, you're reserving time in the studio. I don't need to know ahead of time what project you want to do or what it is that you'd like to try to create. You're welcome to have that in mind, but if you just need to come and get inspired, we have anything you need here to create any of the projects that you see. So you reserve studio time. A lot of time our main studio is open for walk-in crafting as well, which is great on a rainy day when we hadn't planned for, a specific activity. It's nice for families to be able to just come in and find something else to do for a couple of hours. So people make a reservation for studio time, and then everyone gets to sit down and enjoy their self-directed DIY projects together. So somebody might want to be painting some wine glasses. Somebody else in their group might want to do string art or a self-guided canvas. We also pour candles here. We do beautiful acrylic pours. So everybody can pick what it is that they want to do and make sure that they're making something either for themselves or as a gift for someone else in a way that's really personal and special.
This kind of reminds me of like the food truck of DIY, because typically if you go to like a DIY or like the board and brush place, they have very specific projects that you're making.
Right.
Yeah, and here it's like a food truck. So maybe, my girlfriend wants to do this, but I want to do that. So we can all just pick and choose and still have a good time.
Yeah, and then still get to spend time together. And then you don't have to kind of listen to me lecture or teach a class or teach a workshop over the time you're trying to spend with your friends or family. We do offer classes and workshops, absolutely. I have a reoccurring Wednesday vision board class. That's a lot of fun. We have a Technique Tuesday class. That's fun. Sometimes people need a reason to come out and get together. But most of the things that we have in the studio you're able to do just as a walk-in or a reservation.
So how does the pricing work with this? Is it based on how many materials you use?
So it's all based by per project. I have everything in the studio priced out anywhere between $15 and $70, depending on what it is that you want to do. We have a really great space in the studio that makes us really unique called our splatter room. And that has a reservation that you reserve by the hour. It starts at $20 a person, and you're able to kind of add on or upgrade as you'd like to. So we try to keep it reasonable for families in the area.
So if I can ask you, because as someone who's been on Pinterest from the very beginning, I remember actually doing a stoing when I was with Fox 2, because it was so new and people were like, what is this Pinterest thing? And doing a story and doing the interviews and interviewing like a lawyer about the legalities of some of the things being posted on Pinterest and the boards and all of that became an issue in the beginning. But it's it has really evolved over time. Pinterest is for anyone that's a big Pinterest follower. So how do you try to pick and choose what you're going to stock your store with there?
Question. So our Pinspiration is a franchise. And so as a franchise, we as a group kind of have some core pieces that we know are popular in all of the markets that everybody on Pinterest is pinning and wanting to try. So all of us carry those core projects, and then we carry new things seasonally too. So a few times a year, I'm bringing in new projects. We're phasing out older projects, bringing in stuff special for the holidays or back to school. And so we pay attention. We kind of look at Pinterest and some of the metrics on what's trending on there. What are people pinning? What are people interested in doing? And then our franchise group is wonderful about helping to pull together kind of what that materials list might look like and how we can best help our customers with their tutorials, but we have a lot of creative liberty too on what it is that we carry and how we style our studios and what it is we want to bring to our local communities.
So since you're just really starting to get off the ground, what has been the reception? Have you been pretty busy?
We have been bananas. It's been so busy. It's really wonderful. You know, it takes, I felt like it was a big risk to start a business, let alone start a business during a pandemic. But the reception that we've had from the community has been just wonderful. Our splatter room is typically booked out every hour, on the hour, all day, for days ahead of time.
Wow.
Parties are starting, the party reservations are starting to roll in. Word of mouth is really getting out there. We have people coming in and setting up bridal showers and baby showers and team building events and corporate events here. So people are really, really excited about it. I'm so excited that we have this space, and we have it in the space that we do, and at the time that we decided to be able to open.
Do you expect that this franchise is really going to continue to grow over the next few years?
I absolutely do. I know that there's other studios coming up in Michigan in the very near future. People are creative by nature, and this is such a collaborative environment. I just think it's going to continue to grow. I know that there's 44 more stores that are slated to open throughout the U.S. in the coming year or to 2 years. So you will see more and hear more about Pinspiration. Absolutely.
That is so fun. I will say it's probably good for you, though, all the rain that we're having. For us, like it chases us off the lakes, but it chases you indoors. So it's probably good for you with the kids, right?
Yeah, we have excited kids come in here all the time. They're like, I want to do this. I want to make that faux aquarium. I want to do this guided canvas. And I always say, it's a beautiful day. Go outside and ride your bike today. Come back on the next rainy day. And then we can spend some time to do it. Absolutely. Yeah, the rain is nice for us. I'm hoping the same will be true when it starts to get a little snowy too.
So what are some of your favorite projects that people are doing right now?
Yeah, so our splatter room is always a hit. I won't lie about that. That is always a great spot. We suit you up in a splatter suit, some goggles, some shoe covers, and a hairnet, and then you just get to throw paint around Jackson Pollock style at your canvas, at the walls, at your friends or family that you're in the room with. That's a hit. The other piece that I really love here are all of our guided canvases. And the reason I have a sample here, I'll show you. The reason that I love our guided canvases here is because you can personalize this however you want. If you want your rainbow to be different colors, if you want to add, I don't know if you can see all the glitter that I've added on this one, but if you want to add extra glitter, you can. If you want to change any of the details in there, you're able to, because you've got all the access to what you need here in the studio. Another piece that is really popular around here with our kiddos is our faux aquarium. And they turn out so cute, and they load it full of treasures and fun little pieces. And then they get to take this home in their own personalized way. A lot of the grown-ups around here really like doing the string art. I've got a couple samples up there, but I have one of my favorites here that I put together. And these are a great collaborative piece. And so what we've done here is we pre-paint our board, and then you add your pattern on here. This one I did as a hot air balloon. And then you're hammering in all of these nails. You can sort of see it's got a little texture to it. And then weaving all of our embroidery threads around to make it look exactly how you want it to look. So it's a great way to create some really neat memories here. And people are able to email me and say, I want to create a string art, but I want it to look in this certain way. And we're able to put together a template that's going to be exactly what they want to do. So
I did get one of those string art things from a girlfriend for Christmas. And I hate to say it's still sitting in the box. But on something like that, how long did it take you to do that?
Oh gosh. So, a lot of times with this string art, people start them and then they're welcome to come back in the studio and finish them up later. That string art piece took me about 5 hours to complete, start to finish. I did it over the course of 2 days. I sort of painted one day and did my hammering, and then I came back and did the stringing the next day.
So since you've been open, how many Pinterest fails have you seen? There's got to be a few.
I'm going to say 0, because if I start to see it go off the rails, I'm very happy to just sort of, we're going to pause. We're going to start over. I have prepared here what I call an acrylic pour. And sometimes the colors just don't lay right on the canvas. And so it's pretty easy for us to kind of scrape that, start over, and really make sure that people are going to be happy with what they've got.
So, Jenna, just another minute or two here with you on the Megacast. Any advice that you would give to someone else that was kind of taking a leap of faith to start a business during the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say do it. I always say with Pinspiration, like, we have to just go with gusto, right? This is how we do an acrylic pour. You just have to have some confidence. You have to trust in the process. You have to be willing to see that you're going to make something beautiful for your life, right? And so in the studio, we're making really beautiful art pieces, just like this. Hey, isn't that amazing? Don't these just turn? Look at that. Oh. So I say with anything, you've just got to trust yourself, trust your creativity. The community will meet you. That's for sure. The community will absolutely kind of meet you where you're at. If you can find something you're passionate about, you should go forward with it.
That was so cool.
Wasn't that the coolest thing? You got to come in and try one of these for yourself. They turn out stunning. They absolutely turn out amazing.
And what's great about that is you have a piece of art that not only can you hang on your wall, it costs so much cheaper than going to the store, but there's a story behind it as well. That is so awesome.
Absolutely. And you can, we can blend anything together. We can make it look exactly how you need it to. And they're so fun to do. And this is something, you can do it 5 years old, and it's going to be something that's like a real art piece.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. See, it's so fun having you on with us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, we hope that you guys have continued success. And this, it's a leap of faith to start a business like this, especially when we come from that 9-to-5 world. But on top of that, doing it in a pandemic and sticking with that vision. So we hope that this really just takes off for you.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect today.
Oh, you'll be seeing me in person one day. And again, Jenna, can you tell what's your location and what's your website so people, if they have to book?
Yeah, so we are located at 2733 Coolidge Highway, right in Berkley, Michigan. And our website is pinspiration.com/Berkley.
Well, thank you again for being with us. We so appreciate it.
We cheers. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. That turned out so cool. And she just did that like by tipping a cup over top. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit concerned when, you're just dumping the paint over and then you lift the cup up. I'm like, that's just going to go everywhere. Oh, no. But it turned out very nice.
I'm going there. But sure. I love the splatter room.
Oh, yeah. It's a great idea.
I think we should have like a Civic Center TV,
We should have a paint fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way.
Team building experience.
Building, take out the frustration, make some art.
How cool is that, though? But for everyone out there, great thing to do with the kids. We've been getting so much rain. Go have some fun with them and create some great art that is beyond what the kids would make, in the classroom. Yeah. Something that you could actually display. But I could see, like, my girlfriends and I totally doing this. This is awesome. Awesome. So go visit them in Berkley. We're going to take a break here on the Megacast. We have a lot to get to here on the show. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with the CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. That's next here on the Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's a second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking. Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Welcome back to the Megacast. We're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can always catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast 99 on AT&T. If you're out driving around, tune us in to the radio. 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. But really, better yet, so many people are on social media, and you can watch us from wherever you want to. I know I have some family and friends in Ohio that watch, because you can do so just by going to Facebook, our social media pages there. One of the things that we aim to do here is to try to have long-form interviews with people throughout the community, not just business leaders, but also our elected leaders and our community leaders on everything that's been happening through the pandemic, but also to try to highlight some of their services that they provide. And I will say, in all my years here, I didn't know what the Michigan Municipal League was. And they've been around since 1899. So with that, we want to bring in Dan Gilmartin. He's the Executive Director and CEO. Great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here. I did not bring any visual aids like Jenna just had, but I do have a colorful shirt on, so maybe that'll help. So.
Well, that with the bright, sunny, beautiful green background, that works.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take that.
So, Dan, I have to ask you, do you get that question a lot? Like, what is the Michigan Municipal League?
Yeah, I mean, we, as you said, we've been around since 1898. So we're largely a behind-the-scenes organization, but we work with communities throughout the state and even get involved nationally a little bit. But our goal is to make communities in Michigan better places to live, better places to work, to visit, to play, to get educated in. And our work goes sort of soup to nuts on trying to get those communities to up their game, whether that's helping them with municipal budget issues or helping them reinvigorate their downtowns, or looking at housing or recreation, you name it. And so it's very interesting work.
I will say, because I'm thinking about this, and you are a nonprofit, but it's a big mission. It is a really big mission covering a lot of different areas. And then as someone who lives in Keagle Harbor, when we bought our house about 14, 15 years ago, they had a master plan. I don't think anything on that master plan has come to fruition. So how do you help guide some of these communities to not only create the master plans, but also implement them?
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, there's a lot of plans out there in every walk of life that look great, and they're sitting on a shelf somewhere collecting dust, or maybe now they're just sitting in the back of a computer somewhere. But that's it. And it gets to one of the issues in Michigan is really the capacity to do a lot of these things. Hasn't been there for so long for a number of different reasons. But we find that one of the biggest issues we have in all the communities, whether it's a big community like Detroit or a smaller one like Keagle Harbor, is that the capacity to move sort of the plan into a stage of getting something done just isn't there like it used to be. And so that's where, in a lot of respects, that's where we try to sort of fill in that gap and help communities to get from, again, whether it's a downtown area, whether it's a park system, whatever they're working on, and get it from the point of being something they hope gets done to actually implementing it on the ground.
So, Dan, how many different communities does your nonprofit work with here in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, over 500.
Wow.
There are 533 cities and villages in the state, incorporated areas. So it's we like to say from Monroe to Ironwood and everywhere in between. So we work with all of them. We represent them sort of en masse before the state legislature or the federal government with respect to municipal issues. And then we work individually with communities in sort of the program planning areas. We educate local officials a lot. Maybe it's one of the more important things that we do is to bring new trends and new ideas of new ways of getting things done to the mayor, a city administrator, a police chief, whoever it might be, to make sure that we're moving everybody forward and keeping our places good.
That's so important, because I'm thinking about your world, and as someone who has worked within the government entities, you know that leadership changes all the time, and every time you have a leadership change, some of these projects can change and either get thrust forward or get pushed to the back burner. So how do you navigate that world?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'd say sometimes good, sometimes not so good, depending upon sort of what's going on in the community or at the state level or the federal level. It all kind of rolls into one. And I think that the good thing about the sustainability, if you will, of the local unit, where it's largely outside sort of the whims of the state and federal, political craziness, you get some of that at the local level, but for the most part, people around city council tables or village boards tables or wherever are trying to get Main Street paved, and they're trying to get downtown businesses moving, and they're trying to get, Little League programs for kids and keep your water safe and those types of things. How we get there sometimes is different, but the focus is on sort of providing a better place for you and your neighbors. And it takes us out of some of that craziness that I think you're referencing in the political system and the governmental system we see at the state and federal level. Not all of it, but some of it for sure.
Dan Gilmartin with us here on the Megacast. He's the Executive Director and CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. And with that, Dan, if I can ask you, because while you're focused on one community, we know that we are all interconnected on so many of our projects, being whether it's our roadways or our water systems. So how do you bring the different communities together on some of these more regional issues?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things we've been doing, I'd say, in the last decade or so. I think it'll even go further. And a great example of that is the American American Rescue Plan.
I know, it's always hard to keep up with what they're calling it today, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something different every day, but that's what I'm talking about there. And that's the funding coming in directly to communities from the federal government. And while it's wonderful that, community A, every community is getting something, again, whether you're Detroit or Kiko Harbor, but the real, we think that the real opportunity is for communities to work together, to work on bigger issues and make that really transformational. So while you can take the money as a local unit of government and redo a street or whatever it is that's on your list of things that hasn't been able to get done because of funding issues, if Kiko Harbor thinks of itself and its surrounding communities and maybe works with Oakland County and works with the state because the state got money and put some things together, they can turn their $500,000 or whatever they're getting into perhaps a $5 or a $10 or $15 million investment in their community. And that's really how we're getting them to think. And I think that, individuals don't think of community as stopping at a municipal boundary. And I don't think economies work that way. And I don't think people live their lives that way. So it's really important to be a municipal official as an elected member, an appointed member of a board, but it's also important to be a civic leader and just sort of understand that what we're trying to do is create places that bring more opportunity, more wealth in all of its dimensions to people in the community. So that's where I think that regionalism approach, that statewide approach is so important. And I think we're seeing some real positive results there.
So if I can ask you, because we do know, especially when we're talking about the smaller communities, our elected leaders are made up of people from such diverse backgrounds. And in a lot of cases, they're very part-time. They may be paid $50 a meeting. They're not full-time politicians. So how do you bring people from those backgrounds together and try to get them to think bigger and long-term?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll give you a little quiz here. So you thought you were going to get off easy this morning, but how many full-time elected officials at the local level are there in the state?
Community-wise?
Yeah.
Out of how many?
Out of 533 cities, how many of them have a full-time mayor?
Oh, I'd say maybe 150.
12.
12.
Yeah. So again, people say politician or whatever. And so there are over 3,000 local elected officials, and 99% of them are never going to run for higher office. and make this into sort of a career and get into some of the nonsense, quite frankly, you see at the state of the federal level. So again, they're there thinking about, how do I get, that beach in our community improved? How do I make sure our water system is updated and providing clean, fresh water for people in the community? How do I pave Main Street? I mean, those are the issues that I think local officials spend the vast majority of their time on, and maybe a little bit on politics, where I think when you get to the state and the federal level, the vast majority of time is on politics. There's a little bit on policy. So, I think it's incumbent upon groups like ours to bring those ideas and bring those innovative concepts before folks, because they've got tough jobs. You're right. They're getting paid. I think Huntington Woods, they get $1 a year. Some communities get nothing. Some places pay $1,200 or something, which barely, covers your transportation back and forth to City Hall a few times a month for meetings. So the local officials are doing this because they love their communities, because they're part of what's going on. And it makes it, like I said, it makes it a little bit easier to get through to cut through not the red tape, but to cut through the craziness and get people focused on doing better.
So I went at 12 out of 532. Yeah. That is amazing. And I would think a good portion of them are right here in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, probably 8 or 9 of them are, for sure.
That is, and I will say, I think for so many people, especially during the pandemic, we're hoping that people understand the importance of our local elected leaders have on our day-to-day lives and the decisions that they've been making, and really give them a lot of grace and respect, because they're doing this for, like you said, basically little to no money. It's really kind of a volunteer position, and the decisions that they're making and having to do it because, a lot of them don't come with an urban planning background. So they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts for the betterment of their communities. And so with that too, can I ask you, how do you take it though, or how do you compare us here in Michigan with not only the United States, but globally as well on some of our projects? Because I feel like we're behind some of our European counterparts.
In what area are you talking? I mean,
like transportation or global climate, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think because of the economic downturn we've all been facing for the last, if we're being honest, probably 40 or 50 years at this point. But so I'm not talking about the recent recession or anything like that. But with the industrial economy sort of taking a lot of money sort of out of Michigan over the last few decades plus, we have, I think, fallen behind. And I think folks have gotten a little bit scared to jump out and do big things. That's why I think this ARPA money is so important, because it gives people a chance to dream about what they're doing in their communities and to really truly make places that are great places that people want to be in. Because at a time where individuals and businesses and whole industries are moving around and they're mobile and you're not sort of stuck doing tractors in Illinois anymore and autos in Detroit and Silicon Valley with computers. I mean, you can do things literally from anywhere. We find the communities that are doing great, that have better economies, that have higher quality of life, however you want to measure it, they're the ones that people want to be in. And we all see that, and we all go places and say, wow, that's a great town. And when you say why you think it's a great town, I can tell you right now it's going to have some energy on the streets, some historic infrastructure, some cool stuff to do, some just things that are sort of universal in terms of what people look for in a community. But in some ways, we stepped back from trying to create that here in Michigan because we've sort of said, okay, we've got to buckle down and we've got to ride this sucker out. But again, I think you mentioned Europe, and there are other places that are spending a lot of money on infrastructure and really sort of putting the nuts and bolts in place to make sure that a community or a region or a state can thrive. I'm hoping we'll do more of that here in Michigan, and certainly this is an opportunity right now like we haven't had in decades. It may not have for decades as we move forward. You're talking about upwards of $8 to $10 billion coming into the state from the federal government at various levels to really get at some of those issues you talked about. So that's something where we're working really overtime on that to make sure that we take full advantage of the opportunity that sits before us, because we always say when it comes to recessions, Michigan's first in and last out. And I think when it comes to sort of economic upheaval, the rest of the country is starting to see some of the differences and sort of the changes of how people work now that we've all been dealing with and working on. So I think we can have an opportunity to be first out on some of this stuff as well.
It's a fascinating nonprofit that you work for. It really is. And I think so many people don't realize that you exist. I hate to say that, but you're so vital. You really are vital.
Yeah, well, that probably means we're doing our job. I mean, we're not a front page type of operation, but we're getting, like I said, educating and pushing and bringing in new innovative ideas and trying to get some strategy around doing these bigger things that's going to impact everybody, whether you're in small business or you're a school teacher or you're a retiree or a young person looking to get into the workforce. We've got to make sure we've got communities in this state that you want to be in. Otherwise, people aren't going to be here. And I think that's the nexus at the end of the day. We've got to have places that people love, places that help improve the human experience. And if we have enough of those places, we're going to do just fine as a state.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things that we've understood, especially about supporting our businesses and our small businesses, they make our communities very unique. You know, there's a box store, a Target, a Lowe's in every community. You know, I can go to, Charleston, South Carolina and go to the suburbs and they're going to have a Target. But what makes me want to go to Charleston is the downtown walkable community, those unique stores. It makes us want to go to Traverse City. You know, we don't need more box stores or strip malls. While they're important to a degree, we have to build a community, and that has, make it unique, but also make the people want to come.
Yeah, that authenticity is really what people want. And that's really important. You're absolutely right. You can go on the side of a highway and standing on the apron of the Target store and looking across the street at the Lowe's, and you could be literally anywhere in the world. But if you're on Old Woodward in downtown Birmingham, that's a unique experience. And making sure that you have that experience available to people, again, whether it's Birmingham or Royal Oak or Rochester or anywhere else in Oakland County or throughout the state. We've got to make sure that we understand the importance of those places, and we understand their importance for everybody. Whether again, all the people I listed off earlier, wherever you are in life, if we've got those unique places, if we've got places that really create community wealth in all of its formats and allow for people to live healthy lives, allow for people to work, allow for people to enjoy them. Stuff we talked about, arts and culture, that was on earlier. Jenna speaking about what she's doing. Those types of places, what they feed into a community, are ultimately what make it unique, what make it authentic, and what make it good. We all go places and come back and say, "I wish we had that here," but for some reason in Michigan, we've gotten away from that. And I think it's time we get back to that and really celebrate who we are and what these places bring. And I think nothing can stop us if we get going in that direction. It's a really exciting time.
Absolutely. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Dan Gilmartin with us, Executive Director and CEO for the Michigan Municipal League. And Dan, I know we didn't get a chance to talk to you about state and local transportation. We'd love to have you on again, because I think I saw a meme that said one thing that's constant in Michigan: I-75 is under construction. So I'd love to talk to you more, and we'll have you on again in the future, if that's okay.
That's okay. I'm pretty sure we're not going to fix regional transportation anytime soon. So whenever you need me, I'm back.
Well, thank you again for your time and your expertise. If people want to find out more information, and I understand you have a podcast as well, how can they do so?
Yeah, the easiest thing is to go to mml.org. That is our spot, our website, and you can kind of fiddle your way around there and find out all the different things that we're doing. And there's contact info there and all kinds of different things people can check out.
Well, thank you again for your time. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always learn something new doing the show every day, Tyler.
Yeah, yes, we do. And there's so much to learn from organizations like the Michigan Municipal League and from our local communities as well, because they're all doing something different and they're all facing, like Dan said, those similar issues. and trying to find creative solutions to them, and doing so collaboratively more than ever right now, especially with all those federal and state dollars coming in that are helping to support that.
The other great thing about our show is we're able to highlight people doing amazing things in our community. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Pamela Good, who is the president Beyond Basics, as well as her literacy suite director. That's next here on the Megacast.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. You know, it's summer. It feels like summer. We're in the middle of summer. And I remember back when you were a kid, didn't you love summer vacation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You loved it. It was a time where you weren't constantly grinding with your schoolwork. You had a little bit of freedom to explore outside when kids were outside more often, and have some creative and fun time, but also learn a little bit as well.
But it is the end of July. I'm already seeing the back-to-school commercials.
Uh-oh.
Come on.
It's too early.
And you do kind of feel like, for some of the teachers and the kids, it's been such a crazy year. But before you know it, school is going to be back in session. And for so many kids, they've been remote, but also for so many of the organizations that have been supporting our kids, they've been virtual as well. Is that going to be the case going into the upcoming season? We want to bring in Pamela Good. She's the president for Beyond Basics, and Lareea Jester. She's the literacy suite director. Great to have both of you with us. How are you?
Great. Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pamela, we talk to you quite frequently. I have to ask, did you get a summer break? Are you on summer vacation at all?
Well, we wrapped up one school year and we're getting ready for the next. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to take a tiny break here. But it's all exciting work, so we don't mind.
I know, but I always say as adults, they don't teach us this when we're kids. We don't get summer vacation.
No, we should all take the summer off. Wouldn't that be lovely? We practiced over COVID. Maybe that could be part of our better normal.
It is so true. And I will say, I think one of the great things that hopefully comes out of COVID is, especially in the beginning, it forced all of us outdoors to really explore and just to get back to being a kid. I don't have any kids, but sometimes I'm like, can I borrow a kid just so I can play and people don't think I'm weird?
Yeah. You can borrow mine.
Well, Lareea, if I borrow them, about an hour time limit, is that good for you?
Perfect.
So, Lareea, can you talk to us a little bit more about being the suite director? What exactly is your role over there at Beyond Basics?
Yes, so I'm going into my 6th year with Beyond Basics. I started off as a program manager in the schools, overseeing the day-to-day activities of the tutors and students, and also volunteers that we may have in the building. And I moved from there into the office, learning more about the actual curriculum and just overseeing what goes on in the schools from a more scaled setting. Because again, first I was in the schools and then I moved into the office. So just getting the opportunity to train other program managers and train other tutors as they prepare to go into the schools and get the students literate.
So what was the last year like for you? Especially what was it, March 2020, mid-March, end of March, when they announced schools are going to be closed down.
And we thought, we have to keep working. The kids still have to get the tools that they need to be successful. This pandemic isn't going to last forever, and we have to still put them in a position to be successful as they proceed throughout their life. So the pandemic didn't stop the work. It actually catapulted us to new endeavors as we embarked on this virtual aspect of what we do. So now we are able to tutor in person and virtually. And so I think the pandemic just gave us the push that we needed to take the organization to the next level.
Pamela, if I can bring you back into the conversation, I really worry about so many kids that were already struggling prior to the pandemic. And I know your organization has really been a lifeline for so many of them, still offering virtual tutoring. But are you concerned that going into the new school year, we're going to see more kids that have fallen further behind?
I think for the kids that are not reading near grade level, they haven't fallen behind there. You know, they're kind of at the bottom. So you do have some that are at the bottom that didn't necessarily fall behind, but you had a lot of kids who did not have the advantage that some children did to propel forward. And so in that sense, you do have kids in vulnerable communities that are behind just from an academic standpoint, not necessarily a literacy standpoint. Obviously, literacy impacts it at both times, but I think that the vulnerable communities fell behind many things. I know many people, for example, that didn't even receive stimulus checks because they hadn't filed taxes or couldn't claim unemployment. And I wish that our nation would have been better about fettering out those folks and giving them the resources that they needed.
And with that too, do you think there's some going forward, because one thing I've learned in talking with so many of the kids, some of them, even if they had the computers that the schools provided with a lot of the kids, they, for whatever reason, maybe couldn't get a strong enough broadband or enough of a signal to be able to get on to do their homework. And they're trying to do their homework on their cell phones and worrying about that data usage as well. So going forward, how do we fix this? Do you think there's at least one step forward in fixing this problem that I'm sure people in your position have known has existed for years?
Yeah. The best thing that comes out of all of this is that you have a light shined on these issues that existed prior to. I mean, kids didn't have computers prior to COVID. Now the population at large is aware that they didn't. They weren't tech literate. they didn't know how to operate. I mean, can you imagine if you just had a computer put in front of you and you had to contact someone or attach a file or do some of these things? They really couldn't navigate the software on the device well either. And so there is a light that shined on it. I hope that people stay concerned and we start working these out. But to your point, we had students that would be on their cell phone trying to do the tutoring programs or trying to have the sound off or the screen off because of various issues with the computer. So I just hope we stay with it as a community and really solve these issues instead of it just being the chatter of the day.
That is so important because if someone has been a reporter for so long, you know that these become a headline. But then as time eases on, it fades into the background. And we can't allow that to happen when it comes to the education of our kids. And Lareea, if I can ask you, I know that you know, Beyond Basics has such a successful tutoring program. Can you talk to us a little bit more about why it is so successful? What makes it different than other ones?
Absolutely. So one of the key pieces is that the students are partnered with a trained tutor in a curriculum that has been proven to produce results. And the students are also given an assessment that gives complete data on where the student is. So when they're partnered with that tutor, we call it a prescription, and the student is given a prescription, which is their individual reading plan. So the tutor starts working with the student from day one based on that individualized reading plan, highlighting the areas of deficiency that the student has and taking them from that point on increasing their literacy. And another key piece is that mentorship relationship building, because they are working with the same tutor daily for 1 hour a day. And, you know, as a result, the student is not only getting that academic literacy support they need, but they're getting that mentorship piece as well.
So what does the upcoming school year look like as of right now? We know things can always change in the middle of COVID.
Well, as of now, we are planning on returning to face-to-face learning. So we will be operating inside of the schools, tutoring students one-on-one with those trained tutors, working with the students, focusing on those individualized reading plans, getting students literate.
And Lareea, how important is it to be able to offer back in-person tutoring?
Well, as Pam stated earlier, the deficiencies that came about just having students having to navigate through that virtual space, it was very challenging. Again, we did what we had to do because we didn't want to drop the ball and just do nothing, but it was challenging. You had students who didn't have everything they needed regarding devices, internet services, and so being able to go back face to face eliminates many of the challenges that we experienced this past school year.
Let's hope those challenges are in the rearview mirror, but we know this pandemic is not over just yet. And Pamela, if I can ask you, your organization does rely on volunteers. What does that look like for the fall coming up?
People believe that our tutors are volunteers, but they're actually paid staff. And that's one of the reasons that the work doesn't get embraced readily, because it's more expensive. But for, we need someone to be dedicated an hour a day, 5 days a week. Our tutors are working 30 to 40 hours a week just tutoring kids. So it's a job. And it highlights one of the things that we really would like to talk about today, and that is that we're hiring tutors right now, and we need a lot of them. We do, we are going to be in person, and so it would have to be someone who's willing to, go to the schools, be paired with kids. We do all the training, but we need to hire more tutors right now. And it is a little bit more challenging because of all the workforce issues that we hear in the news daily, but we have a really great career plan for tutors, and just the blessing work of sitting alongside a student and teaching them to read is just it's just life changing for both. I think the tutor and the student.
So are most of your tutors retirees? What skills does someone need to be a tutor? Because I will say, when I meet a fifth grader, they're so much smarter than I am right now.
Oh my goodness, we could train you, Ronnie, to be a great tutor. But
I don't know.
Our tutors come from all walks of life. They're all ages. Some are retirees. I think they really have a desire to help. We get those people who want to be tutors to our kids that really want to do something to make a difference. But we do the training. They typically have some college or college degrees. College students make phenomenal tutors. So the training is a couple weeks long, and then we pair you with kids and we help you learn as you're working with your first students. But all walks of life, they really come from.
So when you say you're in need of tutors, because we do know just about every school district right now is struggling to even get teachers. So how many are you talking about that you need?
I think we want to onboard 100 tutors between now and the first of the year. We need 100, but we have about 70 at the moment. So we're looking to onboard 30 to 50 more for this first semester.
Well, we know that your program is so successful because of the way that you've laid out the program. So what is a part of that training to get them up to speed before the upcoming school year?
Well, mostly it's about learning the curriculum that they would then deliver to the student, but it's also about the child themselves and kind of the way we operate the logistics around it. We do track everything with a database, so they're learning also how to put in their daily logs and some things like that. But primarily, they're learning the curriculum, which is Orton Gillingham based. It's phonics, multisensory. Google the science of reading, and there are practical ways that you can teach reading. And I think the multisensory approach really just caters to kids learning differences. And so you learn the variety of ways to communicate these lessons so that a child, regardless of their learning style, can pick it up. And so we teach everyone how to, teach all of our tutors how to do that.
Pamela, we know that so many teachers are leaving right now, taking retirement if they're eligible. And this really seems like it's a great way for them to really get back to the basics of teaching because they wanted to help kids without all of the stress of trying to deal with the schedule of managing a classroom that's remote and hybrid and in and out. So for all of those teachers that are maybe retiring, they should really try to consider being a tutor.
They should call us. I think you can go to our website, beyondbasics.org, and we would love to interview them and tell them more about the opportunity. But they definitely would it would be a perfect transition for them from the full-time teacher and, working with how we do with kids in the school. I think they'd really love it.
Well, we need so many great tutors right now and so many great teachers as well, because we know there is what they are calling the learning loss coming out of the COVID pandemic. And going into this new school year, we really need to work together and come together and lift up these kids because, they're our future. They are our future.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Well, Pamela Good with us, President Beyond Basics, and Lareea Jester, Literacy Suite Director. We are so honored, as always, to have both of you on with us here on the Megacast, and hopefully you'll get enough tutors going forward. But again, thank you for all the work that you're doing, because I know that you're making such a difference in so many lives. It has to feel good at the end of the day.
Yes, it is. We're getting the outcome report back. I just got it this morning, and it's phenomenal when you can see how many kids are reading, at grade level now because of the diligence of our tutors and our team. And, we really appreciate you helping to get the word out and make this top of mind, because this is an epidemic in our nation. So thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pamela. And Lareea, best of luck in the upcoming semester.
Thank you.
It's been great having both of you on. We'll take a break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be talking politics in the state of Michigan with our favorite free press reporter. That's next here on the Megacast.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid. Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated?
Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. Just as a reminder, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon live. If you are unable to catch an episode, we kind of get it. Not everyone can hang out with us for a full 2 hours, but you can always catch previous episodes. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on Megacast, or if you just have time for an individual interview, you can watch that by clicking on the on-demand section. And it is July, but there is no break from politics here in the state of Michigan. Joining us now, we want to bring in Boucher, our favorite free press reporter. Great to have you back with us. How are you?
I'm great, Ronnie. How are you?
I'm just sitting back watching the show because I do think politics in Michigan, it's a show. It really is a show. It used to be the Detroit City Council, but now it's just really the state level.
Yeah, never a dull moment on the beat, that's for sure.
That's exciting as a reporter, though, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's a fun challenge to keep up with everything and make sure that we understand the full context of what's going on.
So I will say, if we can kind of start with your thoughts on James Craig announcing his run for governorship. Well, the exploratory committee, it's the worst kept secret, I think, in the entire state of Michigan.
Yeah, as my colleague Paul Egan noted, he announced yesterday morning that Chief Craig is creating this, what he's called an exploratory committee. And then on Tucker Carlson last night, he said that he's running. So the exploratory committee was efficient. It was fast. They learned everything they needed to in the 12 hours or so, it sounds like. But no, like to your point, everybody expected him to run. He's joining the race. And in theory, you know, he has the highest public profile of any Republican who was expected to run for governor at this point. He's never run for public office. But, you know, it's somebody who seemingly Republicans are welcoming to the race very quickly.
I will say, I don't know who is the PR company behind his ad or his video that he put out announcing his exploratory committee. But hello, you can't have someone driving and talking at the same time. You know, he was driving. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but he was driving as he was announcing why he wanted to take on this challenge. And it was like,
eyes on the road.
Come on, yeah. I mean, even though you're looking forward, you're kind of leaning over, and we know you're going to be distracted. As the chief of police, he should have known better.
He was driving an American-made car, though. I checked his GMC, so you gotta give him credit for that.
That's
Chief Craig is he is a car guy, though. He's very much a car guy. If I can ask, because you know, as someone who has covered politics now for quite some time on the state level, and you're looking at Governor Whitmer, and he's already, you know, the political fighting is kind of starting on his side. But what is it going to take for him to be able to balance what's really happening in the Republican Party? Because I feel like the Republican Party is fractured following the Trump administration.
Sure, and this is, to be fair and to be clear, you know, it's not uncommon after a presidential election where the party's candidate loses for the party to kind of do a self-evaluation. I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, but it's definitely common for there to be fissures in the party after a loss. Yeah, the evidence of that crack and that divide and that infighting couldn't be more obvious in Michigan and everywhere else. And Chief Craig has been asked multiple times his thoughts about the January 6th insurrection, whether or not he's a Trump supporter, whether or not, you know, he'll campaign on similar Trump platforms, and he's kind of dodged those questions in part because he hasn't officially announced as a candidate, and seemingly he wants to introduce himself to a broader swatch of the state. You know, he's very well known in Detroit, Metro Detroit, not as much so outside of that area. So you could see potentially as a strategy not wanting to, or at least wanting to just introduce himself, give his personal story first before he gets into some of that. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge for any candidate that's running as a Republican. We've already seen some candidates really lean into the Trump ethos and try to go for that part of the base, and others are trying to you know, kind of straddle that line a little bit. But it's a challenge for sure.
So any other big names when it comes to Republicans do you anticipate are going to be throwing their name in their hat? I believe there are several others that already have, but really no one knows who they are.
Yeah, so there's some people who are already in. There's someone who is kind of a Trump truther, I guess, for lack of better phrasing, and you know, is a, I would argue, and I think this isn't a derogatory statement, pretty far to the right. There's Tudor Dixon, a radio host. There's others. There are business people, and then there are lots of rumors, right? There's nobody likes to report on these sort of rumors more than this season when people are waiting for more candidates to get in. So there's been rumors of like Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC, or Betsy DeVos, former education secretary, the DeVos family. There's really no indication, like public indication, that either of those individuals are going to run or enter the race. And most people who follow politics know, despite some of the pushback and the criticism that the governor has received for months from Republicans and lots of other people on many different grounds, be it Robert Gordon's departure or how the state has used public pandemic rules, she has $10 million and she's an incumbent with a national profile. And that's tough to run and pour everything you want to in a campaign to win a Republican primary and then go up against an incumbent with that much money. So no, James Craig right now is definitely the biggest name in the race, seemingly in the race for the Republicans.
Yeah, I think the Republicans really have to come together if they want to try to take over the position of governorship because of what you just said. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she has a national platform right now because we do know that she has a close relationship with Biden. But is that going to help her going into this next year, do you believe?
You know, it depends. Obviously, Republicans would say that it won't, right? But we did see Vice President Kamala Harris was in the state recently, and she met with the governor and helped a bit of campaigning with the governor. Obviously, Democrats think that's going to help. Obviously, Biden won Michigan relatively easily, 154,000 votes, give or take. And so Democrats certainly think that'll help. But again, we'll see. There are lots of other issues that Republicans plan to run on with the governor, her trip to Florida, again, what they call hush money payments to Robert Gordon and to other high-ranking officials in the administration. the orders that were in place. So there's lots for Republicans in theory they think to run on. Whether or not that brings over those people who are in the middle, or whether or not so-called establishment Republicans can get together with Trump Republicans and really push together for one candidate remains to be seen.
Dave Boucher with us here on the Megacast, Detroit Free Press reporter. And Dave, if I can ask you, because one thing, it's like you mentioned, James Craig has not run for public office before, and we're already seeing some of the mudslinging in the article that came out that he ran for bankruptcy back in the 90s. And I will say, I was like, if that's the worst you can get, good luck. I mean, and I will say, there's more. Anyone who's lived in Detroit and been in Detroit as long as some of us have, we do know there's a lot of talk about some things with James Craig. He's very loved in the city of Detroit, but there are some other things that could be under the surface that may be boiling up. So as a reporter, when we know that there are typically people associated with one political party or the other that will do the digging and then come present it to a reporter, how do you handle that in that situation?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that happens all the time. And I would say it's comparable to any other story you're working on, any other sourcing that you might have. Almost every day, reporters get emails and calls with tips about, following up on something. But to your point, in a political campaign, in this sort of scenario, those tips tend to come with documents or background or sourcing. But you vet that just like you vet anything else, and then you talk about it with your team or your editors and decide what the public interest is. To your point, my colleague Paul Egan wrote about the story with Chief Craig and his personal bankruptcies. That's something that we thought was of value to our readers. Whether or not that sways voters or readers is entirely up to them. One could argue that the bar for quote unquote scandal, not necessarily saying that a personal bankruptcy is a scandal, but the bar for scandal just continues to change, right? Especially looking at former President Trump. I mean, there were all sorts of allegations, wide ranging from financial to personal to whatever you want. Not only allegations, just, what he was caught on tape, the Hollywood Access tape, Access Hollywood, lots of other allegations. And obviously that didn't derail his presidential hopes. So, but it is public information. It's information that's out there. And so, that's a process that every outlet goes through about what they decide is important and how they're going to report that.
I'm going to be interested to sit back and watch and see if Kwame Kilpatrick ends up helping campaign for James Craig, because at the end of the day, we do know that it was Trump that helped release him from prison. And Kwame is a Democrat, and he still has a huge following in the city of Detroit, and we know he returned to Detroit. Why you returned to Detroit, who knows? But that's going to be a fun show to sit back and watch.
Yeah, I think, it will be interesting to see. I think obviously Republicans are going to find anybody they can to help campaign in Michigan. It's a state that, obviously Republicans think that they can win back, both at the federal level and at the statewide level. I think the big challenge for Chief Craig is again, just name recognition outside of Detroit. He's on Fox News and cable news frequently, but he isn't as well known seemingly in Grand Rapids, Traverse City, Midland, just anywhere else outside of the area, the same way that Governor Whitmer is. And again, Governor Whitmer wasn't either until she started campaigning, started running. So, and there's plenty of time to get that name recognition out there. So we'll see. I mean, he's, as someone who's never run before, he's still got to win this primary, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty contested primary with lots of names involved. So we'll see. It's a challenge for anybody to win a primary.
So if we can talk a little bit, I know that you wrote the story yesterday regarding the Michigan House repealing the emergency powers law with Governor Whitmer. I'm kind of like, isn't this a dead deal? I mean, didn't the Supreme Court kind of take over that, or were they concerned that it was going to be overturned in an appeal process?
Yes and yes to everything you said. So that's right. There's a law that was passed in 1945 that gave the governor emergency powers in a time of crisis, and essentially allowed the governor to decide what was a crisis. Came in response to riots in Detroit in the 40s. And so in this case, Governor Whitmer, used that law to issue some of the widespread health and safety regulations in the early times of the pandemic. The Supreme Court ruled in October of last year that law was an unconstitutional delegation of power from the legislature to the governor, but it was a 4-3 decision, and the composition of the Supreme Court has changed since then. So there were Democrats or others who thought that if this law came up again to the court, that they might rule that it was constitutional. Now, the governor and really the health department have been issuing essentially identical COVID regulations under public health law. And that law is very specific. It was written in response to epidemics, and it gives the health director, the director of the Department of Health and Human Services, wide power to issue regulations in the hopes of stemming a health crisis. So there are currently efforts afoot to mount a similar, what's called initiative petition drive, to get enough signatures to potentially curb that power of the health department director in a similar fashion. We'll see if that happens. I think there's going to be a bigger campaign against that this time around after organizers were successful in this petition initiative drive that helped repeal this law. But it's an interesting framework that has been used in the past, but seemingly could be used more to skirt a Whitmer veto and put in place some of this conservative policy that the Republican-controlled legislature approves of.
So with that, Dave, can I ask you, what is it like to be a political reporter in today's climate? Because it seems it doesn't matter what you write. People are going to argue you're a Democrat or you're a Republican and you're just out to get the other side. How do you personally try to navigate the crazy world that is now social media?
Yeah, so being called a Democrat or Republican is like almost laughable compared to the stuff that I get all the time. Like if I don't get called a Nazi, it's a good day. Like that's the sort of rhetoric that I'm receiving anyway, again, almost daily. It tends to be like a very vocal, very small minority, but again, we hear it all the time. And I talk about it with colleagues, both at the Free Press and at other newspapers. There's a fair amount of pushback that you're going to get. Unfortunately, it's something that seemingly is come with the territory of being a political reporter, especially when people in high-ranking elected positions attack the media. There's no secret that the former President Trump, called the press the enemy of the people and continues to vehemently attack members of the media, regardless of whether or not you agree with their reporting. The personal attacks are obviously over the top and unnecessary and really don't change people's minds reporters' minds, other than to think that, the vitriol might not be, worth what we're doing day in, day out. But again, it's something that, unfortunately, I have a lot of experience with and would prefer if it stopped. I tend not to respond to those emails that call me a Nazi. I try to engage with readers as much as I can, even if they disagree, especially if they disagree. But it's unfortunate, and it's only getting worse.
Because you always appreciate having different viewpoints, and that's the beautiful thing about America, is that we can express those viewpoints. And I just remember some of the emails that I used to get, or the posts on social media. People are just mean, and I would say, just so you know, this is more of a reflection on you than it is on me. So
sure.
Thank you for sharing with the world exactly who you are.
Yeah, and I should know too. I am a white man in politics, and the sort of hate that my colleagues of color and colleagues who are women get is so much worse. It's awful, and it's gendered, it's sexist and racist, and just awful vitriol for people who are just doing their jobs. And the arguments almost always engage in a personal attack and don't engage in the facts of the story. And so while I get that hate, again, my colleagues get much worse. And those are colleagues who aren't covering politics either. It's almost across the board.
Well, I know that you have to have a thick skin when you work in media, but at the end of the day, it's like you said, you have a job to do, and you do it as a service for the public. And so we thank you for continuing to do that service, because we know it's not always easy, especially as the landscape of the journalism world continues to evolve and change. The deadline pressure that you and your colleagues are under each and every day is just insane. I think if the public could just come along for one day and be like, could you handle this? I mean, I remember, going to the feds, and it's like, you'd have like a month to write a press release. That was like 3 paragraphs, maybe. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a little different, but I love it, and I feel very thankful and privileged to be in the position that I'm in.
Well, thank you for what you do. And again, don't let the attacks get to you, because I always said if I wasn't ticking someone off, I wasn't doing my job. So you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Dave Boucher with us again from the Detroit Free Press. Please support local journalism. And I know that, pay to subscribe to the Free Press, to the Detroit News, to the Oakland Press. It's just a few dollars each and every month, and you're helping to support journalism, especially when it comes to newspapers. People don't understand. They really are the ones, if our newspapers aren't covering it, that is that trickle-down effect, because we know then that a lot of the TV stations aren't covering the stories as well. So they have such an important role and an important voice in this world. So support them. Pay for the subscription. Again, Dave Boucher, and you can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and all the good social media outlets, and also, of course, through the Free Press. We'll take a break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll talk a little business on this Thursday morning. That's next here on the Megacast.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function.
Which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Trevor Project is sharing how you can support LGBTQ youth who may be at risk.
It's simple. Just show them that you care. C-A-R-E. Connect. If you noticed any warning signs of suicide from someone you know, reach out to them.
Ask. Ask directly, are you thinking about killing yourself? It might be challenging, but talking about suicide is proven to reduce risk.
Respond. If they open up to you about their suicidal ideation, honor that trust by responding with compassion and empathy.
Empower. Talking openly is a great first step, but now you can empower them with the information and the support they need to improve their situation.
Learn more about how you can show them you care and help prevent LGBTQ youth suicide. Visit trvr.org/care.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function.
Which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Great to have you with us on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. More than a year and a half into this pandemic, we're not out of it just yet. So many of our businesses continuing to struggle as we emerge from the COVID-19 crisis, and helping them do that, so many members of our Chamber of Commerce. We want to bring in Lareea Jester. She is the Executive Director for the Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce. And a little bit later, we'll bring in the Chamber President. But first, Lareea, we can start with you. What's the past year and a half been like for you and your team?
Just a moment. It appears we have her muted. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry, Lareea. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Thank you for being with us. What's the past year and a half been like for you and your team?
Wow, the chamber had to pivot really quickly, just like everybody else, and try to support our businesses. Initially, it was really information sharing with what we were getting on almost a daily level from Oakland County or the state. And then it was support with, the PPE, the PPP, all the different things that the businesses needed. So I feel like we're finally kind of coming out the other side, and we're able to be there for our businesses during the past 18 months.
And so we should mention that the Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce, you represent Walled Lake, Wixom, Wolverine, Lake Village, Commerce, Waterford, and White Lake, and the Union Lake Business District. But so many of those communities are really dependent on the water aspect of their communities. And we know summertime can be such an important time for these businesses to be able to make the revenue to keep them afloat during the winter times. So how is it looking for them this summer?
You know what? That's really true. The recreation in the area is so dependent on the lakes and the trails that we have, the park areas. And so they it's been a great summer so far. People bought boats during the past year and a half. They're out on the water, they're celebrating, they're having parties again. They're supporting the restaurants and other businesses that also, benefit from those types of events as well.
And with that, Sue Vanderbilt, you are joining us on the phone. You're the chamber president, but you're also the mastermind and the navigator behind the big event, Rockin' Under the Stars. Can you tell us more about the event?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Actually, I'd like to say it takes a village, and the Rockin' event that we have certainly takes a village of chamber members to bring to the community. What's lovely about it is that we have a variety of businesses that sponsor the event, and therefore it provides them an opportunity to showcase who they are and what they do in our community at one central location. The event typically brings in, I think our best year so far has been just over 3,000 guests to the venue. Do you agree with that, Laura?
Yeah, it's been really well attended, and unfortunately we couldn't host last year, so this is our 10-year celebration, and we're super excited to be able to have it this year.
So with that, Sue, if I can ask you, what did it take to try to get this operational this year? Because I know that planning these events takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, so fortunately, because we present this each year to the communities that we represent, we were able to bookmark our 2020 plans with the two bands that we have, which is Magic Bus and Power Play, which are headliners in our location. And we were able to continue to reserve them for the following year. So that worked out great. Same goes with the stages we bring in. We work with Oakland County Parks and Rec to bring in the stages for the bands to perform. So we extended our reservations for both stages another year. And then we fast forwarded the calendar date at Multi-Lakes, which is where our venue takes place. And we were able to secure that as well. So the other parts of it were strategically placing the businesses. We have 2 restaurants on site. So as you know, employment is an issue right now as a result of the pandemic. So that we were a little worried about, but we were able to get 2 great chamber members to represent at the Rockin' event. We're excited for that. And then the other sponsors that have come back year after year, we're still committed to the program, and we've acquired a couple more too. So it's been, if anything could be seamless, it was the transition kind of pushing forward the date on everyone's calendar.
And see, a little bit of positivity can go a long way. Just about another minute or two here with you, both on the Megacast. And Laura, if I can ask you, what has been the silver lining for you and some of the businesses in the Lakes community coming out of the pandemic? Because we do know that people are staying closer to home, and the lakes have been a huge attraction.
Super, yeah, that's true. Our businesses have really come together to support one another, as well as members of the community to support the nonprofits in the area that did so much work during this time as well. So we've seen a lot of partnering and assisting one another during this time. Like you said, the community also rallied. They're really excited to be back out and doing events such as this. So we're hoping, to see a really large turnout for this big community event. It's a family-friendly event. We try to keep the price really reasonable. It's only $5 to attend. So we do have a lot of optimism here at the Chamber, and we're hearing that from our businesses and seeing that from our community members as they start to visit us and do things with us again.
So give us the date and the location again.
Yep, so this is going to be held Saturday, August 7th. It's from, the gates open at 4:30. Our first band, Magic Bus, takes the stage at 5:30, where there's a brief intermission, and Power Play Detroit takes the stage at 8:30. And this all takes place at the Multi-Lakes Conservation Association. That's located on Newton Road in Commerce Township.
So can people bring like their own lawn chairs and their drinks and food? How does that work?
You know what? People can bring a lawn chair, like think Pine Knob, you can bring a lawn chair, a blanket, but we do ask that you participate by enjoying the food and the concessions and the beverages on site and not bring in your own cooler. As Sue mentioned, our restaurants this year are two of our great chamber members. It's Dickie's Barbecue and Alex's Pizza. And so we've got a great selection of food and beverages for folks to have on site. And we really want to support those businesses as well. So we ask not to bring coolers in.
And Laura, it's still Pine Knob to me as well.
I know, right? It's a bit old school, but it's kind of how it is. It's a lovely setting. It's on a hill. It overlooks a lake, and it's we've got a family game area that's got some games for kids to play with mom and dad in between, and it's just a really lovely location and a great night.
Again, that will be happening August 7th. We want to say thank you to the both of you for taking time to be with us. That's going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of the Megacast. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m.